Welcome to Gold Derby's costume design panel with Emmy contenders. This is our roundtable portion. I'm delighted to be joined by Susan Michalek from Abbott Elementary, Eyrich from Feud, Capote versus the Swans, Carlos Rosario from Shogun, Bernadette Croft from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and Sharon Gilham from The Wheel of Time. I wanted to ask a question to all of you first, which is, I have to imagine one of the most exciting parts of your design journey is the costume fitting, when you get to take things that you put on paper and then brought to life with fabric and then put it, on your performers and see how it comes to life and see what they bring to it. I wanted to start with you, Lou, and just talk about, what is your most favorite aspect of that fitting with your actors? And have you had any kind of aha moments or discoveries when you were in the fittings for this series in particular?
Well, there were many. I'm trying to think. Maybe probably with Jessica Lange when she was playing Capote's mom, and there was very little information on her, so we were trying to decide who she would be. And Ryan had a specific thing, like it's a flashback to her before she committed suicide, and so we had a rack of all kinds of stuff, and we just started playing dress up and trying to figure out who Nina was. That was probably one of my favorite moments. And then, oh my gosh, maybe with Demi as well, with Anne Woodward coming up with there was a fantasy scene and we weren't quite sure what it was, and we just started playing dress up and came with it. But both of them not at all period specific. They didn't have to be because they were fantasies. So I think that was for me my favorite, because we didn't have to go strictly from the period catalog.
Carlos?
Well, for me, I mean, for Shogun, my feelings on Shogun were very different than any other shows that I've done before, because it takes about 2-3 people to dress anybody with any of those costumes for about 45 minutes or an hour. So actors are busy. We had so many fittings to do to get through. So pretty much I had one shot. I had 45 minutes, 1 hour to try the costumes that we made. And, and that was pretty much it. And I think that what was beautiful about it was the fact that I've never worked, before, representing this culture, the Japanese culture. So it was really beautiful to see all my characters, sort of come to life as I was, sort of trying all these outfits. But it was very different than any other shows that I've done, where usually I get to play with different options and different elements. On this one, we only had one shot. We could only try one thing, and that was pretty much it. So it was a different process than other shows.
Bernadette?
Yeah, I guess every alien is cool, every Vulcan, but even the Starfleet uniform, like I see even our day players come in, and it's very powerful. Like, when you put on this uniform, you're going to be a part of a team that values life and diversity and thrill of science and adventure. And I feel like they stand a little, I don't know, something about their cadence and their posture. It makes people walk with confidence. So I would say like that legacy of the Star Trek franchise has a real effect on people, and I see it every day here. It's really cool.
Susan?
It would have to be with Quinta for this season, with the transition and just bringing a ton of stuff in and whittling it down with her, and seeing how we could shift the character and how it evolved.
And Sharon?
Well, I was talking about it earlier, but the Lady Suros headpiece, we had a design and illustration, and Rob Goodwin, who's my amazing couture leather maker, had created the basic shape. But he was like, how do we make this visor thing? Because we wanted to hide her face. And in the workroom downstairs, somebody had found in a box at the back of the cupboard, this piece of metal that's like a kind of bowl. It's like a fruit bowl that folds in. So like a piece of metal with lots of holes punched in it, like a fruit bowl. And I was like, whoa, what's this? And I took it into the fitting with Karima, who plays Lady Suroth, Karima McAdams, and Thomas, the director. And we sort of laid it across the front, and we just went, whoa, Thomas said, I've never seen anything like this before. And to his credit, to everybody's credit, they went with it. This is the first time you see an actress on screen and we've completely hidden her face. A beautiful woman, and she wanted to go for it. It's really, really exciting.
Let's pick up on the point you just made on working with leather. I wanted to ask each of you what your favorite fabric to work with, either on this project or on other projects. What is your favorite to work with and why? I know, Carlos, you're shaking your head. I know you worked with Japanese silk on this project. Do you want to talk about that, or what
Yeah,
are your
sure. Yeah,
fabric?
no, I mean, obviously we worked with beautiful fabrics. We started swatching the fabrics in Europe and in America, and I couldn't find anything that represented the aesthetic of the Japanese culture. So we ended up hiring a team in Japan that sent us the most beautiful fabrics. So that was really a highlight, that FX was so supportive that they allowed us to afford those fabrics that were kind of unique, right? So that was really some highlights of this project. But I think actually I really love to work with leather too. And I actually made all the armors in leather because I knew that it would give a really nice patina to the armor, more depth, but also it would make those armors much lighter. And so usually armors on samurai movies are made out of metal and, iron and all that. And I decided to go the other way and make it in leather. And actually, Mr. Sanada told me that was the lightest, armor he has ever worn in his career. So that was great, for him and all the other actors that had to perform their stunts.
Anybody else favorite? Anybody else love working with leather?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had quite a big leather department, and same as Carlos, very similar. You can make leather look like metal, which is magic. And it does really help, especially stunts, so that they can't possibly, it's too dangerous, too heavy to use the real thing. But I was going to say that I also I did a lot of buying in Europe and actually, well, this time in India, but I really like getting vintage textiles because of the life that they have in them. The Wheel of Time, even though it's a fantasy show, is quite grounded as well. It has a reality to it. And one of the things that I love doing was I would buy a piece of fabric that's this big and then take it to my amazing textiles department and go, do you think we could reproduce this and then print 20 meters of it so we can make it for that character? And that's a real treat to be able to create your own fabrics, developing either something that's reproducing something vintage or taking that idea for a walk and going from vintage into something completely new. And that's just an incredibly luxurious thing to be able to do on a job.
Lou, you were shaking your head working with leather.
Yes, but I actually was something that I like to work with that is so simple, and don't laugh, but I love how it can transform anything, is the shoulder pad. A simple little shoulder pad can shift a whole, you can see an actor like, oh, I don't like shoulder pads, and you're like, hold on, and it changes the way they stand. It gives them boldness, a powerfulness. I think it's really fun. You can build it into the peplum of a dress. And I don't know, I always have a huge stack of shoulder pads of all sizes in my fitting room.
Susan?
Well, I purchased everything for this show, unless it's scripted. So I don't have, I'm more about color and print and what I can find than creating anything for this particular series.
Bernadette?
Yeah, I guess I love seeing the textiles team create. So often we have to make fabrics look weird and wonderful and alien. So it's like, how are we going to, do a custom screen print or add foil or texture? So I find that the team adds all of this life to the fabric. So we have so many different types of fabrics here, but I do love the natural fibers and leather in particular because of its versatility. But yeah, it's always fun to experiment here.
Before I let you all go, I want to ask you, from these projects in particular, do you have a memory of one day on set where you had a costume issue, and how did you kind of come in and save the day so that production could continue? Susan, let's start with you.
I think there are costume issues almost all the time. I mean, there's a fire almost all the time, and there's just a readiness that you have to fix it. So I don't have one particular one. Speed, agility, a good crew. You know?
Anyone else?
We had a hand-painted gown for Babe for her 1955 Thanksgiving dinner. And you guys all work in bigger custom made, but this was a very delicate hand-painted dress, and we had one time to hit it right and then make the dress. And they were shooting it the next day, and they came and asked, any way you have a double, because we're gonna like sew this thing into it. And then we had to quickly whip up luckily we had done a painted test to make sure, but so yeah, it was kind of like, how do you just whip up a custom made couture dress, all hand sewn by noon? But we did it. That's what we do.
Exactly, always asking for the impossible and expecting it to really happen, and somehow we do it, and then they go, see, you can do it. My quick story was there's a character called Lanfear, who's a sort of evil dominatrix type woman from the future, who's seducing one of the young main character, and there's various scenes she appears in them, in his dreams and in unexpected places. We were shooting in Morocco on top of a hill in the early hours of the morning, and she had this sort of black leather dress that was quite fetishistic and so on, and we made this headdress that was pointed sort of up like this in a horn shape. It was made of card, laser cut card, and it was so windy on that day that her headdress was like a sail, and she had to hold on to it. And somehow they managed to shoot it, and somehow they managed to edit it. But the first AD, when I saw him the next day, just gave me such a filthy look, and just said, how could you do that to me? How could you put that thing on her head? That could have ruined the whole day. And the director turned around, Maya Vrillo, and she went, yeah, but it looked great though, didn't it?
Carlos?
I can't think of one. The only thing that I can think of is the fact that we needed to create some openings in the hakama pants for all our gentlemen, so they could go to the bathroom, and that would speed the process. Otherwise, in the beginning, it's something that with the rush of all the costumes that we needed to design really fast, we didn't think about. And after one day, we realized, okay, it's time to create those openings in the hakama pants, because like I said before, it would always take like 45 minutes to redress somebody, so we couldn't afford any mistakes.
Bernadette.
Yeah, I guess similar to Lou, just like needing to do a double at the last minute. Season 2, we're in the times of COVID, and we just had to be ready for anything. And one of our costumes, it was like an elaborate Vulcan dress with filigree 3D printed shoulders. We had to kind of reproduce very quickly. The actress was fine in the end, but it was just one of those things we had to do just in case. And it always pays to have extra fabric, just in case these things happen, because yeah, you never know. You have to be prepared.
Finally, I'd love to just ask each of you quickly, what is it like to work with each of these shows in its unique way has so many background performers, whether it's all those children at Abbott or these armies in Shogun, Wheel of Time, so many background, big gala scenes and other shows. What is it like to work with and costume, dozens, if not hundreds of background performers? How is your approach to that to make it as seamless as possible? Go ahead, Carlos.
There, I'll go first. We wanted Shogun to be as an experience for the audience, right? So it was really important for us to be as accurate as possible about the Japanese culture, but also, sort of always find ways to bring it to the modern audience. But, in order for the audience to really have a very immersive, sort of experience watching the show, we needed to treat every extra in the same way. So as the lead characters, so we put a lot of work and effort into designing the background exactly as with the same passion, the same hard work as our lead characters.
Susan, how about working with all those children? We talked about that a bit earlier.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it. I mean, they're just adorable, and they get to they're wearing these uniforms, which we've broken down to age, and then they have pieces on top or shoes, and they get to put it together however they want, and also wear it however they want. So there's a realism to it.
Bernadette?
Yeah, I feel like I love being a collaborator, and I have two incredible BG supervisors, and they run their fittings and they send me pictures and options of every single BG performer, and I get to choose my favorite. So I very much love to pass on that kind of like responsibility to them, just because we often have 100, 200 background performers, and I really want to make everyone feel like they're contributing to the show. And yeah, I very much like to tip my hat to the team, because they're incredible artists, and the BG performers really, like I mentioned before, just like add that kind of like that depth and that believability. So although sometimes they're not heavily featured, they just add so much to the episode and the experience. So very grateful.
Lou?
I'm very hands-on with background fittings, and this series, we had an incredible team of background. They had a lot of fun doing the fittings. I always enjoyed going over to their side of the hall and watch them create their magic. But we had a very small budget, so the challenge was, how do you do Le Côte Basque, very socialite heavy restaurant, and on a limited budget, but they pulled it off, and I was always in awe of how our limited stock, and they were able to make it look magical every day.
And Sharon?
Yeah, I completely agree with what everybody's saying. It's like your team is everything. And, you know, on these big shows, you cannot possibly do everything yourself. You really rely on people's creativity and skill. You know, you start it off, but then you let them take over. And I think there's something so exciting about seeing, like Lou just said, you know, just seeing the way that people really get into it. And it's like, oh, this is why I'm doing this job. You know, not just because it pays the rent or for whatever reason it's on my CV. It's because I really love coming to work and creating those characters. And that's just, you know, it's so great to be part of a team like that.
Well, congratulations to each of you, Sharon, Susan, Lou, Carlos, and Bernadette, on these beautiful projects and beautiful costume work. Thank you all so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.